What's up, guys? Mighty Mammal Swine here, and today I'm bringing you guys the power rankings for GBA Season 6, Week 5, and I am not alone.
What's going on, guys? Matty Brawler here, back again, and I am not feeling too good about myself after last week, as a lot of us could probably say the same. Last week was definitely the roughest week of picks, so trying to get things back on the right track here.
Yeah, this was probably the worst week of picks of all time. Ever in GBA history. This was such a bad week for picks. Nobody went positive.
Oh my god. That's really insane.
I went from being the leader of Pick and Crew, and now I'm in 4th place, which, going 1-7 last week, I still think that's kind of impressive, that I was able to stay afloat after only winning one game.
Yeah, I didn't have such a great week either. 3-5 is what I got week 1, and I thought, after week 1, my first week of picks, it's never going to be that bad again, but nope, here I am at 3-5 again. So, shout outs to the coaches that have really been surprising me, because that's what makes this league fun. Seeing people come out of nowhere and pull some big upsets, or just really turn the corner and just get better. So, shout outs to you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the picks for Week 5, we have the first match, the Boo Russia Donfan versus the San Diego Chim Chargers, and oh man, is it tough to pick against MV right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. MV last week taking out one of the best players in league format, George and the San Francisco Arcaners. I wouldn't say easily, but it was a fast-paced match, and MV sets were just unbelievable. They were so creative, and they just were planned perfectly against George's team. Like, he had so many potential win cons, and Donfan was the one that was really able to get the ball rolling and get pretty much a team sweep. So shout outs to MV, just great playing, really taking the league by storm. And with that being said, he's also my bold prediction that he will go undefeated in the regular season, so I can't by default pick against MV. So please, MV, keep this train going, because it's very impressive and fun to watch.
Yeah, the fans made him the lock of the week this week, and I don't blame him. The sets he brought last week, Rock Polish, Donfan, and it worked with Natural Gift. That kind of team building, that kind of set making, that wins you a league just outright. That's
true. That's definitely true. Like, to utilize something like Donfan, because we know that Donfan has good offensive prowess, but to use it as a set-up speedy rock polish sweeper is really something interesting, and it's a nice sight to see. So I hope MV can keep it up with the amazing innovation, because that's one of the most fun things about this type of format, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. But not only did he innovate a nice set, but it was a good set, and it worked, and it was efficient, and that's really what you need. Anyone could go out there and bust out, I don't know, a physical Sylveon, but it's not always going to get the job done. This week, Rock College Donfan really did.
Exactly. Like, I see a lot of people saying in his comments, like, oh, MV Hita Fajita, just, bringing heat and just going crazy. But a lot of, the sets that he brings, there's a lot of method to his madness. And there's a lot of logic behind all of his crazy sets. And that's what I love about it, because, not only are they pretty crazy and wild, but as Baby Nick mentioned, they're effective. And that's the most important thing. So huge shout out to him, because like I said, when you can come up with really interesting and crazy innovative sets that just work, that makes the matches so much more exciting to watch, because you never know what to expect. And for me, that really puts his battles on the top priority to my watch list.
Yeah, and I don't want to say anything, or I want to say something about Lars, but Lars hasn't been playing very well so far. Throughout the season, has not really returned to form from the previous season. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle, but MV is playing so well, it's hard to see him losing a game.
Yeah, Lars has a good team, and he does have a history of being a great player, so if he can get back on track and kind of turn things around, maybe we will see a big upset this week. But like we mentioned before, it's so hard to pick against MV at this point, and Lars is just not. It doesn't look like he's been himself. So unless he comes back to himself and really steps up, to the next level, then I don't see him beating Envy this week. But it is Pokemon. You never know in Pokemon, guys.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Any team could lose any given week. You never really know until the battle is actually over.
Exactly. That's so evident after all of our picking records this week.
Exactly.
And then moving on to the game number 2 of this week, we have the Boston Red Sox, coached by Super Blah, aka Nick, versus the New York Metapods, coached by Dan, aka A-Drive. And this one was definitely tough to pick because both guys have pretty strong teams, and they're both playing pretty well, I would say. Dan is coming off kind of a rough loss last week, and I know Dan's a competitor, so he will definitely be making a strong effort to try to come back with a win this week. But I do like Nick's team quite a bit. I think that it really is pretty powerful with things like Cure and Black and Mega Venusaur kind of leading the way with amazing offensive sweepers like Alakazam. So I think that if Nick plays his cards right, he has a really strong team and is playing a little bit better this season. Like, he got hacked out of a win earlier on in the season against I think it was Lars.
Maybe. No.
I think his Lars's what was it? Landorus crit his Feraligatr as it was about to set up and win. So that'd be another win under his belt. So it's not even like he's just coming out and losing. He got unlucky. So that doesn't really. So it just shows that he is playing well. So I think that he has the better chance of winning this game. But Dan is just a history of pulling upsets and coming out of nowhere and coming back strong with great team preparation and really good predictions and things of that nature. So I wouldn't be too surprised to get this one wrong, but I'm just going to go with Nick for now.
Yeah, Maddie, you just mentioned playing your cards right, and if there was anything Nick did last week, it was playing his cards right.
Yep.
He used the Alakazam so well, found the right time to win or just break holes with Feraligatr. Baristottle, not only is it a great nickname, it was a great Pokemon this week. He really, really came up clutch. Did like 90-something% to the Rotom, and did a lot to the Umbreon. John told me after, he didn't have a switch into that thing, and I don't blame him. That thing gets really, really hard. This was a tough one. I know Nick is building a lot of momentum, but I also know Dan doesn't have a track record of losing multiple games in a row, and it's just something about him. There's nothing I can really say about teams-wise, because the coaches in this league, they will find ways to overcome team matchup. Team matchup really means nothing in this league. When you're picking matches, you don't pick based off a team matchup, because that's not going to get you anywhere, especially if you look after last week. So, the good coaches find ways to overcome team matchup. It's definitely something Gio tried to do this week, but it didn't really work out well for him. So,
yeah, no, it's true. Team matchup can be very hard to overcome, but as we've been seeing this season, like Baby Nick mentioned, that has been overcoming team matchup has been a trend this season. Let's put it that way. Coaches are really coming out and stepping it up when the matchup looks rough and coming up with ways to really catch their opponents off guard, which is what counter-teaming format is all about. So even though certain Pokemon seem like they naturally have great matchups on paper, when you see that Pokemon is in front of you and you know that you could try to put everything against it to really try to pressure it and not let it do what it's supposed to do, I feel like team matchup could be a little bit easier to overcome in a draft type format rather than, say, just loading up a team on the ladder and just automatically having a team that's really weak to a certain Pokemon, because you didn't really plan for that certain Pokemon or threat as you can plan ahead in this type of format. So I could be wrong there, because obviously the person who has the threats can really try to play it safely and play it smart to really utilize that threat to its full potential. But at the same time, I feel like when you have an entire team that could probably have some type or one or multiple options to pressure that specific threat or those few threats, I think that the good coaches will really be able to overcome that type of team matchup easier in this format. So we've been seeing it, and that's why I feel that way. So when it comes to the team matchup, like Baby Nick said, I feel like it can be overcame. And when you have two really solid teams all around, like the Metapods and the Red Sox, I think it just kind of comes down to who wants it more and who's going to play better on that day.
Yeah, definitely. In Smogon, in just normal laddering, there's a big difference between planning for 70 or so Pokemon and planning for 11. So, yeah, definitely makes team matchup a lot easier to overcome. Moving on to the next match, and probably the projected game of the week, I would say. This is the Tampa Bay Lux Rays and Monotui versus George and the San Francisco Arcaners. Both of these coaches have been playing pretty well. I know George kind of got stomped in the last match, which is why I'm picking Monotui. Monotui has shown nothing but good things so far. I've said in the past, like, if he shows me he's going to continue to play well, then I'll pick him, and I'm picking him this week. He's really shown that he adapted well to the stage of the GBA. We knew he was a good coach, but he's been proving that he's good enough for the league to actually pick up a bunch of wins, and I don't see him losing this week because of that.
Yeah, you're totally right. We haven't seen anything but good things out of Monotui, and this is probably one of the rarer cases where I will pick against someone who has shown nothing but good. The reason being is just because I do think that George has a pretty nice offensive matchup against Monotui. Like, George's team is just really offensive and powerful, but like something that stood out to me was like Infernape. Infernape kind of could just wreck, like a mixed Infernape could really just kind of wreck Monotui's team, as well as some of his other threats. But same thing with Mono to George's, because George has a relatively fast offensive and frail team. But George really probably wasn't expecting to lose to MV the way he did last week, and George is phenomenal. I know Mono is as well, but I think that George really needs to kind of come back and show everybody why he is considered to be one of the best league format players. I've seen that guy play at his best, and he really is something else. So this could easily go either way. I would not be surprised at all to get it wrong, because like I said, Mono has done nothing but impress me so far. He really hasn't been making any mistakes, and his team preparation is pretty much on point. So definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Mono win here, but I kind of just wanted to go with George on this one to see if he can really turn things around after a rough loss last week, because that seems like the type of competitor that he is.
I wonder if the Confusion or Robin are actually watching the games, or are they just picking based off of teams that they think are going to win? Because they made George their lock this week, and I would not be so confident to say that.
Me neither.
It's a very, very bold thing to do.
That's really bold. I mean, George, like I said, George is phenomenal, but Mono is just so solid. You never really want to pick against the guy who isn't making mistakes, because unless he gets hacked, there is a pretty low chance that he's going to lose. So, I guess hats off to them for making those bold predictions.
Definitely.
And then for the fourth match this week, we have the New Orleans Pelipers versus the San Jose Sharpedos. Now, Tom stepped it up last week, played great, and got a huge win over Dan and the New York Metapods, the current reigning champions. So that puts the Sharpedos back on the map here. But for me personally, I haven't seen enough from him just yet, just after that one win, to say that I think he's going to beat John. I think that John, more than anyone definitely, he's one of the coaches in the league who really needs this win the most. So I feel like John should really, get the ball rolling, get things moving again, and come out and win this game, because he's got a really good team. Like I said about Tom's team a bunch of times, like, it is really interesting, and if he's comfortable with those Pokemon, he can do great things with it, but I haven't seen enough from it to be convinced yet, so I am going to go with John for that reason, because I do like his team. I know that John knows how to get wins and knows how to succeed in this format, and he really needs it if he wants to stay in high playoff contention.
Yeah, he does not have a good defensive matchup against Mega Lopunny, as his best switch-in is an Intimidate Arcanine, but John also has Bisharp, so he really has to decide. Intimidate Arcanine to activate Defiant, definitely an interesting choice that he's going to have to make. John has not been playing poorly. He doesn't have a very good record, but he's not playing bad. He lost on a roll one week. I think he lost to a little bit of hack another week. Like, he could easily be a 3-1 team. 50-50s, like, George or not George, sorry, John is definitely in a position where he could be a lot better than he is, but his record does not reflect it. Tom, like you said, I don't know if he's shown enough where he could be ahead of John this early in the season. I don't see how John is going to not lose the match, but he's going to be able to keep a lot of offensive pressure throughout the match, and he has a lot of switch-ins to most of Tom's offense. But Tom does have a track record of beating John. I think he busted out a final Gambits to Raptor back in a previous season. He comes really, goes and plays pretty well against John, so I wouldn't be surprised if he wins, but I don't think he will this week, which is why I made John my lock.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And now looking at the matchup more, you're right about Lopunny for sure. Lopunny really, really pressures the Sharpedos, and Bisharp. If the Cobalion can get weakened, then Bisharp just could kind of have a field day because it could take advantage of the Arcanines Intimidate, and it also is just generally a huge offensive threat that could really do lots of damage to some of the Sharpedos really fast and offensive Pokemon like the Mega Arrow, the Noivern, the Starmie, the Mamoswine, and it also John also has Reuniclus, which looks to be so threatening. A Calm Mind Magic Guard variant looks to be so threatening against the Sharpedos, because after a single Calm Mind, I don't really see what Tom could do to prevent that from sweeping, because things like Mega Aerodactyl may not be able to hit it hard enough if it doesn't have something like Hone Claws to boost, which even if it doesn't have Hone Claws to boost up, it'll be getting hit by +1, Psyshock, Psychics, whatever it is, and then the Starmie or something like that maybe could trick the Reuniclus, but other than that, I really don't see what he has to stop a Calm Minding Reuniclus on his team, because Reuniclus has access to Magic Guard, so it can't be, effectively statused other than Thunder Waved, and yeah, it just doesn't take any type of non-attacking damage, so that Reuniclus could be a really, really huge threat to the Sharpedos, as well as some of the other things like the Mega Lopunny and the Bisharp, and then John just has a really all-around strong and threatening team with mons like Landorus T and Latios that you can never go wrong with, so I see John picking up the win this week, but like you said, Tom is just a good player, and if he steps up and plays well against John like he usually does, he can certainly win this game, no doubt.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has been announced yet. If not, then we're doing some breaking news here. But Geo actually traded Granbull over to John in exchange for Miltank. So, or other way around, sorry. Granbull and Miltank were swapped on teams. So now John has Miltank, and Miltank definitely has a pretty good defensive matchup against a Pokemon like Mamoswine, who's usually pretty hard to check in the format.
Yeah, Mamoswine's almost impossible to check in the format, and Miltank, with the Thick Fat ability, can definitely keep it at bay. Outside of the move Superpower, it could definitely take at least 2 Life Orb hits from a Mamoswine, especially if it goes for something like Icicle Crash first, because that will do very little damage in tandem with the Thick Fat ability.
I believe Earthquake is about a 45% chance to, or 45% to a defensive Miltank. So
yeah,
we'll see how this match plays out.
Mamoswine's just so strong.
Yeah, we'll see how this match plays out. It's going to be fun to watch, and I would not be surprised if Tom wins. Moving on to the next match, we have Miguel and the Real Maril versus Fizz and the Atlanta Hawluchas. Fizz played so well last week, beating Geo. Geo was number 1 in the league. I believe he still has the highest differential, so I wouldn't count him out by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, what Fizz was able to do against a great team and a great coach in Geo was pretty impressive to me. Miguel has been playing well, and coming off of that controversial loss last week, I think he's really hungry for this win. I know he doesn't want to lose another match, so yeah, I definitely think he's going to win this week.
Yeah, that's it's weird because I like Fizz. I think he's a good player, and his team is really strong, and he's just had a history of being very successful in this league, and even this season, he's been really putting in that work, and I've been constantly picking against him for whatever reason, and he just keeps surprising me over and over again, and I actually am picking against him one more time this week. I will try one more time to not purposely pick against Fizz, but I really think that I really think that Miguel, needs this win, not only because, I'm kind of torn on this one, because, yes, Miguel lost last week to a swagger strategy, and he was very annoyed about it, and normally, with Miguel, that would really fuel a fire in him to, come back stronger and go on a win streak and make sure that he builds his own teams completely from scratch and make sure that he picks up on every little thing instead of possibly having some people try to help him out and make mistakes in team building. So that's how I would normally feel, but he did say how he just wants to take the GBA a little bit less seriously and then have more fun because he doesn't want to try so hard and get hacked constantly, and I can understand that. But knowing Miguel, I know he's very competitive, and I want to say that he is going to not give up just yet and still try to make a turnaround this season. And I like his matchup in some ways because Volcanion is a huge threat, and Miguel has one of the best checks to Volcanion, which is actually Goodra. I know Volcanion can run some physical attacks fairly decently, but when it comes to special moves and the things that Volcanion is really good at, Goodra just checks that so well. And then he's got Pokemon like Weavile and Talonflame, which just completely tear up the Hawluchas squad, as well as Mega Blastoise. Oh my gosh, like, show me the switch-ins on Fizz's team. I don't see them. So, other than that, Fizz does have tons of huge threats that can obviously put in work against Miguel. Also, like the Salamence, the Rhyperior is pretty threatening to Miguel's team because his only switch into powerful rock moves is Registeel, which gets destroyed by Earthquake. So, the Mega Scizor is also pretty threatening, but I do think Miguel has a slight matchup advantage here, and I just can't imagine him just wanting to give up just yet. If he does, then I do think Fizz will win, because Fizz is playing very well and has a good team behind him. But if Miguel just really makes sure he builds his teams carefully and doesn't give up yet, I see him coming out with a win this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Dallastaryu does not agree. He actually made Fizz his lock of the week, and we know how his lock of the weeks have turned out so far. So Miguel wins confirmed, basically.
Yeah, you're right. That's actually pretty accurate. Yeah, maybe that trend will continue. So
moving on to the next match. Oh, sorry.
Is it? Yeah.
You can go ahead and do this.
All right, I got this one. For the sixth match of the week, we have the Philadelphia Scissors, coached by Chimpact, against the Newcastle United, coached by Sam. And now, Sam was another one that I, had a trend with picking and end up, getting the match wrong most of the time. And is he 0-4 now?
I believe so. Yeah.
I believe he's 0-4. So you know what? It's just come to the point where I can't, keep putting my faith in Sam anymore. I do think he's a good player. I think he has his good, I think he has a good team, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking, and he's just not getting wins. I mean, he didn't even bring Suicune last week against Tup, right?
Yeah, he did not, which had a great matchup.
Exactly. That was crazy, because both Baby Nick and I looked at that matchup, and we just said Suicune gets a Calm Mind up, and what is Tup doing to stop it outside of moves like Trick, etc., etc. So he didn't even bring that Suicune, and I heard he made comments earlier on saying how he doesn't want to bring Crocoon and stuff like that. And I guess I can understand, it's kind of an obnoxious set to take down, but if you're going to pick Suicune, you want to pick it for the things that it's good at. And I know Crocoon could be kind of obvious. It's a very famous set, but it's still ridiculously effective. That's why it's famous, so you don't want to completely neglect how effective that set can be. And I just don't see what, went through his head to have him not bring that against Tup. And, Tup played really well, and he ended up coming out with the win. So I can't keep relying on Sam to win these matches, because he's just, like I said, just doesn't seem to be clicking for him. Doesn't seem like he's playing badly. Doesn't seem like he's prepping too badly, although I think the Suicune, not bringing Crocoon was a big mistake. But whatever it is, it's just not really working out right now. And we all know how good Chimpact is, so I'm going to go with Chimpact on this one. And, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely will get better over time, but I don't know about this week. The Scizors, don't do me wrong. Last week they were my only win in my lock, so I'm still 4-0 in locks. So I probably won't pick against the Scizors for a little bit now, especially against Sam, who really hasn't played very well, hasn't showed us that we should pick him, hasn't done anything very noteworthy so far throughout the season. But like I said, he will get better. But the Scissors have just been playing pretty well, and Sam just has not so far. It's a pretty straightforward match to pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Because looking at the matchup, I almost feel as if Sam has a pretty good matchup against Chimpact, but I almost feel that way against with all Chimpact's matchups. Something about his team just seems a little awkward, and it seems like it doesn't always have the the power and just all around great team synergy to really prepare for a lot of these teams. But if anyone could do it, it's Chimpact. So that is why I'm gonna have to stick with him on this one.
Yeah, regardless of what happens, it will still be an entertaining match.
I agree.
Moving on to the next match, we have the Milwaukee SBucks, coached by Battler X versus the San Francisco Giants, coached by Gio. Gio has been playing very well. He's been prepping very well. No one is picking against Gio. I don't blame them. Steve has not been playing very well so far. But
Steve?
If there's one... Ooh, yeah, sorry. Battler X has not been playing very well so far. And I know a lot of people like to give Battler X hate, but I don't understand it. He's not a joke of the league. He's not a bad coach. He can go get wins. They will come for Battler X. I don't understand how people could sit here and make fun of him, saying that he's like the laughingstock of the league without just joking around. But he's not. He's like the fact that he's getting killed with SBucks and Sandslash. That's pretty impressive. Even though he's not winning matches or not playing very well overall, I would not be surprised if Battler X goes out there and gets this win. For those of you who don't know, Gio is actually in Europe right now. He has not battled in about 2 weeks. The match versus Fizz happened a while ago, back when he battled Tup as well. So he battled back to back those coaches. And hey, maybe he won't put as much effort into team building, and he'll be a little bit rusty coming back after Europe, because I know Gio is one of those coaches who puts a lot of time into team building. He runs calcs for every Pokemon and every set they could possibly run.
Yep. That's a great. All those were great points. When it comes to Battler X, you're totally right. I mean, that guy, he comes out and he tries his best, and with the team that he drafted, I don't think that he really drafted a great team, to be completely honest. I would say it's definitely on the lower end of the teams that were drafted, but when he comes out and plays and he uses some of the Pokemon that you would never expect to be successful, I mean, come on, SBucks, even if you try to make that thing work, it's still tough. It's just, even if you put a lot of emphasis on it, it's just not an easy Pokemon to get to work with its, very lackluster stats, move pool. I mean, his move pool is decent, but not great abilities, really not very good stats, and just not a great typing either. So it's not a Pokemon that you really get to see work every day. And Battler X is proving a lot of people wrong by getting that thing to work. Sandslash is another one, not an easy Pokemon to get to work so well, and he's constantly been making Sandslash work quite well. So I think that Battler X is one of those players who is close to turning the corner. It just depends on either how much effort he wants to put into it himself, or maybe he can get some type of good teacher or something. Because when it comes to drafting, it seemed like he could have done a bit of a better job. But then also when it comes to playing, he does do some great things, and then he'll just, I guess maybe in the moment, make some hasty decisions and make some big mistakes. So if he could get rid of those big mistakes, his record and his games would be so different. They would be completely different. And I think we would see a totally different season for a coach like Battler X. But right now, when you're talking about Gio, who not only is playing really, really well, just has an amazing team that is just so hard to take down, especially with a team like the SBucks, I really just don't see Gio losing this match, even if he is in Europe and a little bit rusty, because it just seems like the odds are really stacked against Battler X in this one. So I could be wrong there, as always, but that's why I'm just going to have to put Gio as my lock of the week.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that. not really much else to say about this game, so yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. With that being said, we'll move on to the last game this week, and that is a really, really good one. This is going to be a tight game. It is the Pittsburgh Patitas versus the Utah Jasmine, and both of these guys, this one was one of the hardest to pick in my opinion. I haven't been picking Tup very often, but I really have to give my hats off to Tup because he is playing so well this season. I know last week, like not this past week, the week before that, it seemed like, you know, he really just had kind of a rough week, but every other game outside of that one has really impressed me, and I think that his team is pretty solid all around. So if he can continue playing well, then, you know, who knows how well Tup could do this season. He could really turn some heads. So it was tough for me to pick. When it comes to Cooper, he he may bring swagger again this week. He may not, but he just brings things that no one expects and will really do some kind of wacky things that are just so hard to prepare for. And when you have someone like that who also has a pretty solid team to back it up and just a person who knows how to win quite well, that's kind of why I was just led to pick Cooper in this one, but it was so tight. Like, I was so tempted to pick the Patitas first just because they seem to be playing a little more consistently than Cooper is. But I think that Cooper is a bit of a spark plug, and after a huge win over the Real Maril last week, I think maybe he could carry that momentum into this week and pick up another big win.
I'm going to have to disagree, because I think Tup's going to win this match. I believe he's going to play very well with a Mold Breaker Excadrill. Quick question, does Air Balloon stop Mold Breaker?
Yes.
Okay. So an interesting set that Cooper could bring would be a Magnet Pull Magnezone with Air Balloon, which would really just stop Excadrill if he was scarfed into Earthquake or something like that. So Tup definitely has to worry about something like that. But the Utah Swaggers I think they're gonna have a tough time this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really have that great of a switch into say Mega Pidgeot. They don't have very good switch-ins for a lot of Tup's offense, and Tup's offense is pretty good.
Yeah, no, I have to agree on that for sure. I mean, Heracross looks, you know, crazy threatening to the Jasmine. Wheezing is a decent check, but and I guess Gliscor is too. But you know, outside of that, Heracross is just really hard to switch into, even if you do resist its moves. If that thing has, you know, a Guts boost, or if it's holding a Choice Band or a Life Orb, it is just really hard to switch into. It has a pretty good move pool as well, so even though something like Wheezing and also Gliscor, they resist its dual stabs, that doesn't necessarily mean they could just easily wall Heracross, because it has good coverage and it has good options to get past that. So Azelf also seems like it's a ridiculously huge threat to the Jasmine, but I don't know. I really don't know. This one's tough to call. Mega Gallade looks like it could be absolutely menacing to the Patitas. I don't really see his switch into, you know, close combats. And then, what else? Greninja could be a very nice cleaner against the Patitas, because Hydro Pump hits a lot of his team hard. And I believe Scarf Greninja could outspeed even a Jolly Sandrush Excadrill. That may be wrong. That's probably wrong, honestly. But I know it could definitely outspeed Adamant Sandrush Excadrill. So unless Tup decides to bring Jolly, then Scarf Greninja could outspeed. And yeah, I don't know. I think that with Cooper, he's never out of a match from team matchup. He's that type of coach that is never out of a match for team matchup, because he could always find a way to get past it. But you're totally right when you say that Tup has just been playing so well and is really on a roll right now. So, like I said, I could totally be wrong on this one. Wouldn't be surprised if I was. I should definitely be putting more faith in Tup with how he's been playing, but I just want to see a little more out of him before I really have the confidence to go with him on most weeks.
Yeah, I believe that we've seen enough out of Tup, but maybe not. Maybe some others haven't. This match is definitely going to come down to team prep, so whoever probably spends more time and puts more effort into team building this week is probably going to come out with a win, because they are pretty even overall, and I think they are definitely, they're both good players in the league, so it's definitely going to come down to team matchup. But that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I think that this is also going to be another tough week, a pretty tough week to call. So, hoping that these results don't end up pretty similar to how they were this past week, because we really got hammered. But hey, that's what makes it fun. Like I said, that all that unpredictability really makes for an exciting league. So, yeah, I hope you guys, the fans, keep going out to pick in the Twitter polls, because we've been getting good support in those, and I hope we continue. And yeah, overall, always enjoy making these videos, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, and we will see you next week. Definitely comment with how you guys did last week, because I want to know if anyone went positive, and I also want to know if anyone didn't win a single match. So,
Ooh, that too.
That'll be fun to look at in the comment section. Make me feel better about how I did last week.
Alright, with that being said, we will see you guys next week. Later.
See ya.